All right, let's jump to love-hate pass catches as we take a look at Matthew's ranks 1 through 10. We got number 1 and number 3 going head-to-head tonight on Thursday Night Football. Puka Nacua against Jackson Smith in Jigba with Amon-Ra St. Brown in between them. And Amon-Ra's teammate, Jameson Williams, cracks the top 10, which would have felt like a comedy sketch 6 weeks ago, Matthew, but now Jameson Williams, all of a sudden a legit wide receiver 1.
You see it there on your screen. 3 straight games with at least a 20% target. Sorry, at least a 26% target share. He's had at least 7 catches in all of them. Like, you know, Packers, Cowboys, Rams, 7 catches in all of them. Almost 100 yards, over 100 yards in 2 of them, 96 in the one that didn't get there. And then you think about this matchup against Pittsburgh, who allows the 7th highest completion rate of passes, 15 or more air yards. They give up a lot of deep passes, and so Jameson Williams, who's getting a lot of looks recently, again, 7 receptions in 3 straight. Since week 9, he's the 6th best wide receiver in fantasy football on a points per game basis. At least 16 fantasy points in 6 to 7 games. And also, by the way, I'm playing against him in the semifinals of my Dynasty League. So you know he's going to go off. You know he's going to go off. It's outrageous. I've been the number 1 seed in this league all year long. So I just feel like this is what it's coming. Like the guy's gonna go off.
One of the great fatalists of our time, Matthew Berry. Matthew's very much the type, the fatler, where if you're like a 45% chance to win, you'll be like, well, I got an outside shot. Like I don't think it's gonna happen, but you know, there's a chance. There's always a chance.
My opponent in this league is favored.
Okay, all right.
51%, but 51 to 49. But still, I'm just telling you.
The good thing about Jameson Williams, we've talked about this a bit. 1, total in this game is 52.5, which you love, and then secondly, he's been producing Lawrence, but not needing like the 70-yard touchdown bombs to do it. He's doing just sustained chunk play, chunk play, chunk play.
When Amon-Ra St. Brown left that game a couple of weeks ago, it was like, oh, this is our top 10 pick right here. This is him. Like, we're getting him the ball short, intermediate, and long. So now we know he can do that. Now we know he's not just some guy who runs the receivers off for Amon-Ra St. Brown. So that's good for him, and I think it can happen versus this Steelers D.
Indeed. All right, question. J-Mo or JJ this week, and assume that's Justin Jefferson. It's a question from Ved, though, as we have discussed, there are many JJs in football. McCarthy, Jawan Johnson, Josh Jacobs, apparently.
Jordan?
Yeah, Jawad Jordan. But Jerome James, also, former New York Knicks center, who got like a $35 million after balling out for the
Josh Jacobs.
There's a 49ers running back, Jordan James, as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
from Oregon.
The answer, I think, is Jameson Williams. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, you just like the
He's my wide receiver 10 this week.
Yeah, more stability at quarter. And you can't even say that, like, you know, Justin Jefferson higher ceiling necessarily. Like, Jameson Williams has a massive high ceiling as well. Another guy with a pretty high ceiling.
In that game, 52.5 over-under. Yeah. I think you want as much a part of that game as possible. Are you surprised that a game in which Pittsburgh is in it has that high an over-under?
Not necessarily. Pittsburgh offense, like, they just put up 28 against Miami. Like, it's an unconventional offense. It's not very pretty, but they do move the ball. Like, it hasn't been a mess. And also, I don't think the Steelers' defense is particularly imposing, particularly if TJ Watt can't go. And the Lions' defense, they just don't have any bodies left on the back end.
They've been having explosive plays these recent games, too. Kenneth Gainwell gets one every game. Metcalf starting to come on just a little bit, so, yeah.
Yep. No, I think that'll be high scoring. Another game, which may be high scoring, on Sunday Night Football here on NBC, Patriots-Ravens. Total there is 48.5. The Ravens is 3-point favorites, and Zay Flowers is on the love list for me. I understand that season-long stats for the Pats D are fine. I think that's largely a product of their schedule. We saw when Josh Allen put the cape on last week, the Bills did whatever they want against the Patriots defense. I think Lamar Jackson, he looks a little bit more like Lamar Jackson. He doesn't look like MVP Lamar, but the past 2 weeks I think have been very encouraging, Lawrence, where started with the Steelers game a little bit, and then against the Bengals, just his running the ball more and just having a bit more success through the air. Flowers or DJ Moore if Adunze is out? Question from Brandon Roberts. Definitely I feel better about Zay Flowers.
Definitely. A good course.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy one, actually. Yeah. All the underlying stuff on Lamar, too, past couple of weeks, PFF growth, he just looks a bit more like himself. This is like season on the line stuff for Baltimore as well.
This is I think playoffs started last week.
Yeah.
1,000%. Lamar's looking better. Plus, by the way, I feel like the Patriots struggle against the slot.
Yep.
Christian Gonzalez is good on the outside, but Zay should do well here.
Okay, well, we mentioned that Pittsburgh-Detroit game, Matthew. Let's go back to it. DK Metcalf on the love list with a favourable matchup against the Detroit secondary that is missing Brian Branch. Kirby Joseph had a setback, and they're Terrian Arnold. They just don't have any bodies in the back end.
Yeah, that's the point, Jay. It's just all about this matchup here. Lions have given up at least 25 fantasy points to an opposing wide receiver in 4 straight games. They've allowed the most yards per game to wide receivers this season. And in fact, only the Cowboys have allowed more touchdowns to opposing wide receivers than the Lions. So DK Metcalf, who is clearly the first read for Aaron Rodgers, makes the love list. He's my wide receiver 15 this week. Look at that. Dontavian Wicks had a game against them. I mean, whatever, you expect Puka, but Wan'Dale Robinson put up 156, 9 for 156 and a touchdown against them. DK Metcalf, my wide receiver 15, I might be too low on him.
Yeah, Ryan Flournoy also went berserk. And George Pickens had a DPI in the end zone that was cancelled out by another call. Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a big game for DK Metcalf. It's probably going to have to be for them to keep up with Detroit. We mentioned Justin Jefferson before, Lawrence. Obviously, brutal stretch for JJ, but very favourable matchup against the Giants.
Hey, man, I'm sticking with him.
Yeah.
This is the
All
time.
right.
This is it. Even though the last
Even though we've
games,
been saying for 4 weeks, this is
gotta
the
one day, one day we'll be right.
eternal.
Keep hitting
One
on
day
16.
we'll be right. You know what had to happen? We had to get a team from New York.
Do you always hit on 16, or are you a stay on 16?
I'm not a big blackjack. I'm more of a lose money on comeback player of the year type of operator.
Yeah.
But what you need is consistency there with the decision making, right? And so if you're going to start Justin Jefferson last week, you're starting him again this week.
So we were in Vegas. I was just in Vegas last weekend. My wife and I and 2 other couples, and so we all sat down at a blackjack table. My wife does not play blackjack. She's not a blackjack player, so we're trying to explain to her.
Sure.
And I'm just like, and she's just like, oh, I got a feeling. I'm like, Beth,
Yeah.
look, you either always hit on 16 or you never hit on 16.
Sure.
Is my belief. Again, when the dealer's showing a card that's like 7 or higher, right? And blah blah blah. But that's the thing. And this is my advice to the kids out there. Yes.
At the blackjack table.
I just, listen, if you're going to gamble, let's gamble right.
Yeah. The 23-year-old kids.
It's Jefferson 16.
It is. It's one of those things. It's like the book. It's about even money either way.
Sure.
You just have to sort of just be consistent, and you're not going to be able to guess. Is my point.
Right.
That's my rule, and I'm gonna always hit on 16.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, of course.
You don't want to die wondering.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
I
If
need
you
to
can
know.
choose aggression or passivity, go aggression.
Yes, I need to know. But yes, either that's my advice to the kids. If you learn anything from today's show, either you have to decide either you always hit on 16 or you never hit on 16.
Okay, so why is Justin Jefferson going to hit on 16?
My advice to the kids that play fantasy football, Jay is that guy who steals the dealer's bus
Yeah,
car.
Thank you, Ryan
There's
Oswald.
no question. Jay's absolutely third base and F's the table, 100%. I will never play blackjack with Jay. That's for sure.
Indeed. All right, Justin Jefferson.
I don't know if Justin Jefferson played blackjack, but he playing the Giants. And they've allowed the 5th most fantasy points per game to receivers this season. Hopefully that means something good for him and not Jordan Addison. You know what had to happen? J.J. McCarthy had to start playing better first.
Yeah.
Now that he's done that 2 games in a row, he's ready because Justin Jefferson hasn't had a game over 65 receiving yards since week 8. Look, I know that's crazy. That's some crazy shit right there.
Yeah, Max
like
Crosby for one
not
of those
Justin
guys.
Jefferson, but look, Kevin O'Connell said he will not go under 1,000 receiving yards on my watch, and despite this underwhelming season from Justin Jefferson, he's less than 170 yards away from 1,000. The last time a receiver did not score a receiving touchdown against these Giants was week 6. So I'll be damned, man. J.J. McCarthy, you threw 3 touchdowns a couple weeks ago. You threw 2 last week. He gonna hook up Justin Jefferson this week versus these Giants. He's on my love list.
You know what? I agree with it. By the way, Justin Jefferson, yes, the numbers weren't there, but he got 8 targets last week.
He's getting targets each week.
And there was one, and it drove me crazy because I had Justin Jefferson getting 50 yards as part of my parlay. But there was one play where Justin Jefferson is like basically crossing the field. He's wide open. All J.J. McCarthy does is have to hit him, and he's like it's going to be like a 40-yard play, and there's a chance at a touchdown.
Still working on some things. But he has a 28% target share in 7 of the 8 games that they played together, McCarthy and Justin Jefferson.
Okay, well, speaking of favorable matchups, perhaps none more favorable, Matthew, than your Washington Commanders and that defense. And Dallas got it, goes up against it. The Eagles can clinch the NFC East, and tight ends feast against Washington.
They really do. They've given up at least 10 fantasy points to an opposing tight end in 7 of their past 8 games. In fact, only 2 teams have allowed more touchdowns to opposing tight ends than my Washington Commanders. And so Dallas Goedert, who's been getting a ton of looks lately, 30% target share over the last 2 weeks. He's my tight end 5 this week. I think Goedert has a big game. I think the Eagles win. I think they clinch the NFC East. Great. And I think the Commanders move further down in the draft order, which I like.
Which is what you want.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
It's our year.
Tough win last week. Didn't want that.
I did not want that.
Tough win.
They did not understand the assignment.
Yeah. Well, the good news is you still got 2 games against Philadelphia, and you get the Cowboys in between. And Brian Schottenheimer understandably said Dak Prescott's going to play the rest of the way. So you probably go 0-3, and you be, high draft pick. And the show goes on.
Picking 5 or something.
Yeah, that's all right.
Perfect.
You can get a player who plays defense, which would be a
hopefully
huge
many
win.
of them.
Yeah. All right, let's get to some others receiving votes, headlined by Mike Evans, who we talked about a little bit before. Mike Evans, about as good as a return as you could possibly have wanted last week against Atlanta.
Panthers have allowed at least 18 fantasy points to a wide receiver in 4 of the past 5 games, and you're right. 37.5% target share in that first game back, Jay. How about Jaden Reed? Again, Christian Watson looks like he might play. We'll see, but it's worth noting the Bears have allowed the most touchdowns to the slot and the 5th most yards to opposing slot receivers. Jaden Reed back healthy and obviously plays the slot. He's my wide receiver 33. How about Jalen Coker? Cokeheads unite. The Buccaneers allow the 4th most receptions per game to the slot. He's now had back-to-back games with a 20% target share and at least 60 receiving yards. Colby Parkinson, by the way, he may show up a little bit later in best bets, but like Colby Parkinson this week, he's scored quietly in 5 of the past 6. 3 straight games with at least a 15% target share. He was my desperation play last Sunday on Fantasy Football pregame. He ends up with a 2-touchdown game, just a monster game. And now you get the Seattle Seahawks. Only the Bengals allow more receptions and yards to opposing tight ends than the Seattle Seahawks. No Devontae Adams tonight. I think Parkinson's a big part of the game tonight. And then finally, Darren Waller, you had me at Cincinnati. They've allowed 15 touchdowns to tight ends this season, Cincinnati has. That's 5 more than any other team. And so I don't care if it's Quinn Ewers or Tua Tagovailoa or Zach Wilson or Mike McDaniel. If you've got a tight end starting against the Bengals, you start him. Darren Waller is my tight end 12 this week. He's a tight end 1 for me.
Mike McDaniel might actually suit up at quarterback if this don't work out.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com. And I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched. Or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.